mustn't interrupt the girl in the reflective midnight. A camp at your campfire. An old house. Particular place. It might be because they're ancient, special places for other things to make their homes. Sometimes, you can learn a little from reading others' lists. Others' hard words are petty and varied. One will tear at your tongue if you speak to it. Another will kill you for rudeness if you don't. It takes an expert on the area to know. I don't live anywhere quite like that. I live in the old part of Edinburgh. There's nothing cursed or ancient about my flat. It's actually probably one of the least supernatural places in the city. It's safe. The cities often don't have guardians in quite the same way that rural places have. Forests, lakes, valleys, even big ranches. They'll have owners or rangers or guardians, often passed down through generations, or trained and picked carefully by mentors. I like talking to people from those wild places. The guardians, rangers, and owners of forests and lakes and valleys. I respect the hell out of their attitude. Their reverence for the places they watch over. I don't have anything that special. I stumbled into this. I'll tell you that story if you're patient. And while I would rather die than be impolite to something really ancient and vague, sometimes in cities, what you're actually dealing with is a vomit nymph, or a minor cocaine spirit, and that's occasionally hard to take seriously. Rules. Of course, there are places like the bridge you mustn't walk under if your voice doesn't echo, and Arthur's Seat has its fair share of terrifying things, but for the most part, I'm only really concerned by the universal rules. The ones that pretty much apply anywhere, whether it be an ancient haunted cathedral, or the most mundane cafe. If you're hurrying home between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., don't look behind you. Make sure your bed has your head further from the door than your feet, and ensure at least one side, preferably two, is against the wall. If you're walking past a room and see a person out of the corner of your eye, but when you check again, it's just an outfit on a coat hanger, don't freak out. But always make sure to check again. Break at least one solemn promise before about mid-February of each year. Close your closet door firmly before sleeping. It's okay if it cracks open, so long as it's too narrow for a finger. Stay under your blanket when you sleep. Having a leg out of the blanket is okay, but don't position your feet where they could be seen from under your bed. Windows can slide upwards or open outwards, but must never ever open inwards. If you feel the intense sensation that somebody is watching you from the window, ideally close the curtains. You can look from your bed or couch, but never go over to the window and look down, and never ever press your face against the glass. Only certain people are safe to sleep in complete darkness. You'll know instinctively if you're one of the ones who needs to keep a light on or a window open. Don't sleep with someone until you've had at least 3 dates. They can't maintain a good consistent mimic for more than 2 evenings, and so after 3, you're safe. On a midwinter morning, whichever date you personally celebrate as your winter festival, ensure there's at least one sock in your home that has no pair. There's more, but I don't need to tell you them. See, The universal rules have become part of us now. Either they're in our biology, things we've known from birth without needing to be taught them, or they're aspects of culture that get most people to obey them without knowing why they're doing it. Some of them, I think, aren't actually universal. For instance, I think the rule that home is only on this island. The creatures that demand it only really live here. I think some of the rules are culturally dependent, because of course, an arbitrary calendar day isn't actually how most non-humans count New Year. It's about the rhythms of your life, and the points in those rhythms where certain things might pay attention to you. Edinburgh doesn't really have many rules that you wouldn't get elsewhere. Not rules that apply to all of it. You get some heckin' specific rules if you're working in certain parts of the castle at 3 a.m. But really, it's just a matter of common sense. It's a very old city. An important city. Scotland is an old, wild country, and it remembers all sorts of things. It's a beautiful city with so many layers to it, and so many ghosts. There are things here you wouldn't imagine. But you don't have to tap on anything 7 times. And if you order a kebab from the man with a tattoo of a swarm of wasps after taking the last train from Glasgow, look, you didn't know how bad a decision that was, but you damn well knew it was a bad idea. At this point, you're probably wondering who the hell I am. I certainly don't have any official position. I don't own any land here. I'm not descended from anyone, and I'm not trained as police or anything. Actually, no human picked me. It seemed random. The night after I moved here, almost 16 years ago, I had the most fantastically vivid dream. I was dancing with the most beautiful woman that I had ever seen. She had flame red hair and wore a tattered copper dress. She danced with a sword in each hand, but I was unafraid. She moved with such clarity of intent, and she inspired me so much with her grace, that I was able to fluidly move around her in perfect timing, and the blades never touched me. I had never danced in my life, and I can't dance when I'm awake, but she had moved me. That's all I can explain. I was woken up by a knocking on my door. It was the same woman. I admit, after our dance, I'm feeling a little famished, she said. I invited her in for eggs and bacon. In hindsight, that was stupid. Most magic runs on rules and rituals, and the laws of thresholds. Home sanctity and hospitality are some of the oldest of all. There are plenty of things out there which only need an invite into your home to destroy you. But I'm glad I did it. She didn't touch the eggs and bacon, but she told me it was kind and a respectful offer. The first thing she told me was about Waverly. Well, no. Actually, the first thing she told me was that I needed to get a new coffee machine, because my old one was going to break in about 5 more coffees. The second thing she told me was that, before getting on a train to Stirling, I should check to see if there's a stop at Silvery. There's no Silvery on the line to Stirling. At least, not unless I'm at the station. I've checked with friends who've confirmed this. It's only there when I am, as far as I know. It's safe for me to get off at Silvery. I have an invitation. It is not safe for you, and you should not try. I saw a teenager try it once, and another man who was probably just counting stops to his normal one, and didn't look up from his phone as he got off. That's another one of those stories you can ask me for. Anyway, my day job is at an office and I do things with spreadsheets. It's just, in my spare time, I'm one of the people who helps with the rules. There's actually a fair few of us, with as many people and other beings as there are in a big city, but I don't know the others. And I'm writing all of this because, apparently some people don't know all of the rules. They just didn't get it somehow. Their parents didn't teach them, or their instincts are all wrong. So I figured I should write something that explains them. Some of them are obvious. You fucking know why your closet door must never be wide enough cracked open for a long gray finger to curl out from inside and wrap itself slowly around the door. If you don't, please, just imagine your reaction were you to see that. Congrats. Now you know. Some of them you think you learned better about. You didn't. But that doesn't mean children are wrong about it being dangerous. The edgelings only take small, tender victims. But some are counterintuitive. George, a local nurse and one of the other part-time guardians, called me up yesterday. That was the call that had prompted this post. He told me about an awfully weird occurrence at the hospital. Apparently, an elderly patient reported waking up at around 3 a.m., drenched in sweat, hearing nothing but perfect silence. She looked at the door, and in walked a sort of, I hesitate to call it a man. Apparently, it had arms that were far too long and dragged on the floor. Only a gaping bloody hole where its eye should be, and a torso that wrapped around in spirals like a knotted rope. The man stopped in the doorway, breathing heavily, and then reached out with one hand. It seemed like his feet couldn't pass the doorway, apparently, but his hands could. Walking his fingers across the floor, and then eventually taking a deep breath and supporting the full weight of that awfully long arm. He groped along the beds of the ward until he reached hers. And when he touched her feet, his hands weren't cold. They were warm, slimy, a little suctiony. Something told her to remain perfectly still, not to react, not to give any sign of life. The moist, heavy fingers explored her toes a little, lifted her heel and then dropped her foot. The long-armed creature sighed heavily. No tasty eyes here, it whined. Need tasty eyes. It took a deep breath, coughed up some slime and then whimpered like a child begging for ice cream. Delicious eyes. And then it left. Apparently the doctors think the woman's crazy, and there's absolutely no sign of the creature on the hospital CCTV. No slime where it supposedly coughed. But George is the nurse that helps old people get cleaned up, and he says that her feet were sticky, in a way that turned his stomach. And George's stomach is strong enough to clean pus out of the guy who decided to stick his dick up the open surgical wounds in his own arm, and then laugh about it over a pint. George mentioned he's damn glad his patient was sleeping with her head, and her eyes away from the door, and her feet towards it. He's made sure it's hospital policy to ask all patients to sleep that way. I thought it might be valuable to let you all know.